Do you like your Nintendo Switch but wish that the graphics were a little bit better? Do you like playing The Witcher 3, but you want the water in that bath scene to look a little bit more realistic? And by realistic, I mean see-through. Well, I've got good news! The next Nintendo Switch might be getting ray tracing. Yeah, the graphics technology that only just came to the PS5 on Xbox Series X might be coming to Nintendo's next handheld? This has all come from a massive Nvidia leak, and Nintendo sleuth NWPlayer123 uncovered a bunch of numbers and letters like T234/T239SOC and, most importantly, NVN2. Now I have no idea what all of this means and how it relates to ray tracing on a new Switch console. So, I decided to call Tabitha Baker, our hardware editor, to explain all of this. So Tabs, what does NVN2 mean and why does it suggest the next Nintendo Switch might have ray tracing?
We're assuming that NVN2 is the next graphics API for the Nintendo Switch family of consoles, based on the fact that NVN was the name of Nvidia's original API. And the link from that to ray tracing comes from the file names in that Nvidia leak, which mentioned DLSS in relation to this new Switch API. And DLSS is essentially an upscaling and optimization system in Ampere GPUs that take some of the graphical strain off of the system, usually to free up power for more demanding tasks like ray tracing, which is where that speculation comes from.
While all of this is a lot of speculation at the moment, do we actually think that the next Switch will have some form of ray tracing, or even actually have the ability to do it in this handheld hardware?
So the presence of DLSS doesn't automatically mean ray tracing. It could simply be being used as an efficiency tool for upscaling content. Whether Nintendo is going to go all the way and optimize for ray tracing is another question. We know that they don't play catch-up to Sony and Microsoft, so it's unlikely that they're looking to compete with those engines at this point, but they do adopt features like this to avoid becoming obsolete. So the next Switch console will likely have to use DLSS to remain relevant as games get more demanding, but it's not quite clear how much Nintendo is going to invest in the ray tracing side of that technology at the moment.
The president of Nintendo recently said that the Switch is in the middle of its lifespan, so are we pretty sure that we'll get an update at some point, right?
Yeah, of course they're working on a new console. They wouldn't be in business if they weren't. But the thing about that middle of the lifespan statement is that Nintendo always releases loads of iterations in all of its products' lifespans. So we're halfway through the Switch, but that doesn't mean we'll be waiting 5 years for this next version.
Does Nintendo kind of need to release a more powerful version of the Switch now that they actually have competition for handheld gaming with the release of the Steam Deck?
So Nintendo's always operated on its own rules, really, and it's got its own corner of the market in the bag already. Like, you don't buy a Nintendo for the latest and greatest technology, you buy it for the first-party games that you can only get on that system, and those unique hardware features, the detachable Joy-Con, the docking, and the motion control. So if I was Nintendo, I wouldn't be too worried about Steam Deck. It's likely not stepping too much on Nintendo's market in its current state. The form factor is very similar, but the overall product is largely because there are people who bought a Switch for third-party ports who would buy a Steam Deck today instead. But in general, it's a different product offering.
So finally, apart from ray tracing, what for you, Tabs, is the one feature that they should add to the next iteration of the Switch?
Things are starting to look a little dated on the Switch right now, like even in first-party titles. So we do need some more processing power under the hood, especially considering that the OLED model wasn't exactly forthcoming on that.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go with 4K 60 when docked, but we probably won't get that. Anyway, thanks for explaining all of that. Deciphering NVIDIA leaks always gives me a bit of a headache. So what do you want to see on the next Switch console? Comment down below and then start arguing with each other about it.